War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. On this live stream, it's not going to be a fun one. It's a great way to start off the live stream, right? On this live stream, we're going to be discussing and reacting to Auburn versus Texas A&M. I don't even want to look at the final score. I think it was 3-20 or something like that at the end of it. Auburn does lose to Texas A&M in College Station, breaking a 4-game winning streak that they had on the road there in College Station. Not fun things to talk about on this game, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to react. We're still going to talk, and I'm sure there are a lot of opinions, some of them wrong, but there are a lot of opinions to be had and discussed, and we appreciate you joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay here tonight. So however we can get you, we thank you, and we're really glad to at least see it here and maybe hope we can help you through with this therapy session after losing to Texas A&M, and hopefully we won't get too many rogue Aggie fans coming into this one, and having some fun and throwing some giggums out there and all that stuff. But we usually get a little bit of that. However this thing goes tonight, we're going to be together as the Auburn family, as we should be tonight. And we've got some exciting news that we're going to share. You might see some hints around it on the stream if you're looking in comments and descriptions and stuff like that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit of an allusion to what's coming up here. But before we get into the name of this thing and the reacting of this game, I want to remind you of a couple things. Check out links in the description for ways you can help support our content. But the most important thing you can do right now is a couple things. Smash that like button if you like this type of content. Also, if you can, please do make sure you post if you're who you are, obviously where you're from, city, state, international, all that good stuff with a War Eagle, so we know who's here hanging out with us. And the last thing, if you can, share it out on social media. Let them know that we're live, so they might want to join in and have therapy session with us about Auburn losing to Texas A&M. And I know there's some important games on right now that are apparently going to overtime. I was literally about to go live, and my wife said, "You need to be watching this game." I was like, about to go live. Can't really do it. So I know that may have some of y'all's attention right now. But we're going to get this thing started because we need to come to a point where we just need to talk about these things. It's a couple of familiar faces here. Neil, Robin, Josh, Devin, good to see all of you. George, thanks for popping in here. George says this: I hate it, but sometimes the other guys are just a little bit better with a few breaks. I think both teams had some breaks that went, obviously their way. I don't see like there was like one advantage that one team had over the other. It simply was execution, who executed off the opportunities that they received. And Texas A&M did that, took advantage of home field advantage, some offensive deficiencies on Auburn's part. And yeah, so I don't walk away from this game knowing that Texas A&M is just clear and away better than Auburn. I think they probably are set up for more success than Auburn is this season, but they haven't really realized that outside of Alabama, this game, so I don't really look at them as far and away better than Auburn. I would like to see how this game goes in Jordan-Hare Stadium if we could do a round 2 next week, but I know that can't happen. So we're going to get a lot of these opinions. Robin says Bo just went off the rails and our O-line stinks. We'll talk about that. And listen, I get it. There's frustration. There always is after these types of games, but let's be level-headed. If you're going to say something, be willing to have that statement be something that you be willing to say to those people that you're addressing. If it's not, we're not going to address it here. But I think it is warranted to say that several players, the team as a whole, did not have a great game. And there are several things that we can talk about. Neil doesn't even want to talk about it with his avatar. He's still just reveling in the fact that the Braves are World Series champs. A lot has happened in the week that we've been off. And I appreciate you guys being patient with me this week since I've been off on vacation. And what a way to come back, right? This was not good. I don't know that Neil wants to talk about it at all. Josh says, encouraged by the defensive performance, Bo lost his composure. Oh, absolutely. I think Bo definitely kind of reverted back to some old habits. And we'll get to this, but can you blame him? You can, but you need to be willing to blame some other things, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. Josh says, I called this one. I don't know. I mean, I appreciate that, but I don't know that I called it. I think that's obvious. When you looked at Auburn's schedule at the beginning of the season, there were 4 big games in question: LSU, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Alabama. Those were the 4 big ones that had serious question marks on them. Doesn't mean that other teams won't beat Auburn or could beat Auburn. Georgia State, uh, almost. It just means that those were the biggies out there. And, I did claim that I believe that Auburn would lose to Texas A&M, and I got a lot of flack for that. Here I sit vindicated. And I don't say that as I told you so, but because I would have much rather been sitting here saying I was wrong. And in fact, I think I'd prepared a speech saying how wrong I was and how glad I am to be wrong. But unfortunately, I will not be able to say that here. Here in Huntsville, Rob says, I'm an AU baholic and I have a problem. We all do. Ooh, lost 450 on the game, but it's been a good year. Oh, that's a tough one. I wouldn't have bet on this game here. Devin says, War Eagle always, but man, that was awful to watch. This one was definitely not fun to watch whatsoever. It was awful. You have these slug out fest, where it's defensive. The offenses really aren't scored any points. And sometimes those can be entertaining, but a lot of times they're not, especially if you're on the receiving end of that loss in that type of game. I don't even know if they're that, satisfying for those that win them. Obviously Texas A&M kind of burst out there at the end. You take away that fumble touchdown, you're probably still talking about a game that's going down to the wire in that situation. Larry says, game further proved our offensive line doesn't perform well against an above average defensive line. I would call them a little bit more than above average. They showed that they are worthy. I think it was the number 4 defense in the nation, or defensive line at least. I think that's the stat that was being thrown around on the TV. They showed that they're worthy of that. Listen, if you've convinced yourself that this offensive line, and I'm not really necessarily calling out one player, I'm calling out all of them. And not even calling out, just stating the facts. These are things that you can just watch the tape. Did you see how often Bo had to run? Did you see how often he was under arrest? Did you see any holes open up for the running backs? Not really. There's other players that are responsible for this too. I've been preaching it till I'm blue in the face. Football is a game of inches. If you cannot win the inches, you will not win the game. And that is, if I had to take a game and say, here's your example, this is it tonight. So Devin's asking a great question, opinion on why they didn't pull Bo. Do you think they should have? No. What does TJ do that Bo can't? Bo stood in the pocket when he had the opportunity to. Bo scrambled when he had to and made plays on the run. He made good passes when he wasn't put under stress in situations at the end. So if here's the thing, if we're going to blame Bo for the end of the game, you have to also acknowledge how we got to that point. And there's a lot of people that want to blame Bo, but they'll never blame the other side as well. And there's also the other flip side too. And I've had this addressed with someone else who I was talking to tonight, that why is everybody so quick to, or why are there some people that are so quick to defend Bo? Well, because that, in my view, that's the quick and easy. That's the lazy thing to do. The game goes much further than the quarterback performance. It's the biggie. It's a real big factor in this, but it's predicated across this amongst the success of several other units. And if those don't respond, he will not respond. So to your question, Devin, why didn't they pull Bo? The solution can't be pull Bo. If you do that, you ruin his confidence. And then you're really going to get into a spiral. Does it have, and am I saying that the pulling of Bo in the Georgia State game was wrong? No. Clearly it was the right choice. In fact, I said after the game that TJ Finley had earned the right to start. Coaches thought differently. If there's a player out there during the game, that means that they have earned the right in practice and in the games so far to be out there and that they're the best option. No knock on TJ, but TJ is not the best option at quarterback. It's just that simple. It really is. So no, I don't think they should have pulled him from the game. Now, if we were in a situation like we were in Georgia State where Bo was off from the very beginning, maybe. But even then, you got to be very careful. The solution cannot be pull the quarterback. Problem is you can't pull the offensive lineman because there's not too much depth there yet at this point. Rob says that the Texas, and let's go ahead and be honest here. Let's give credit where credit is due. Texas A&M performed well most of the time tonight. I'm not ready to say that they are heads and way, far and away better than Auburn, but today they are clearly better than Auburn. And I would say they are ahead of Auburn at this point in the season, just based off of what we're seeing on the field today. So, I won't say that they're incredible, but I'll say they are what they were billed to be. They lived up to the hype. Bammer losing to LSU, just hand the championship trophy to UGA. Neil, I feel like you need a hug tonight, buddy. Remember, your Braves are world champions. They're world champions. All right. We need to make a little bit of a cool announcement here in just a second. And I want to catch up on some of the comments and questions here. Dusty's here. I saw your comment, Dusty. Where did it go? We have scored 6 points in the last 6 quarters. Not good. Not good, my friend. By the way, thank you for being a channel member and a Booster Club member, sir. Let's see. Texas A&M defense clearly out-coached Bobo. I don't necessarily agree with that. Do I agree with the play calling tonight? Probably not. But I don't enjoy and like this whole wishy-washy. Bobo's great. Bobo's bad. Bobo's great. Bobo's bad. Bo sucks. Bo's great. That just doesn't interest me. It's not as black and white and back and forth as people want it to be. Did Texas A&M do better, their defense, than our offense performed? Absolutely. Doesn't mean he necessarily got out-coached. We just might be out-talented at this point. Let's see here. I'm trying to catch up on some of the comments here. I'm also trying to keep up with some of the ones that we've already addressed so we don't kind of rehash everything here. Dusty says, once Bo missed the screen pass, I thought it was time to pull him. I'm pro Bo Nix, but he clearly was shook. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be shook. You had no support from your offensive line, no support for the running backs from the offensive line. You had wide receivers dropping balls, them getting offsides penalties too. The two biggest areas that have been Auburn's problem all night reared their ugly head tonight. And then it caused Bo, which is still his responsibility, not to get to this point. But you got to figure out how we got to this point too, into the spiral that has happened sometimes for him on the road. Bo can't do it all, folks. He can't. And when you ask him to, this happens. We got lucky with LSU, and LSU was bad. Texas A&M is clearly better than LSU. And again, if you're going to be making comments about guys that you would never say to their face, we're not even going to address you here. So you know who you are on here, and we're not even going to address you at this point. You got to have productive conversations to be addressed on here. Let's see here. Truly says TJ is the best option. What are you talking about? Well, you've got to show me how TJ is the better option, because he's had his opportunities and he did a great job in one of those things. But every time he's done after that, he's not performed better than Bo. Josh says we got to give Bo some slack, not jump ship so quickly. Can't just pull him after games struggling versus a good defense. The entire team struggled here. We're gonna go ahead and put a couple of people in timeout here, unfortunately, because they just can't handle having rational conversations. So we're gonna let them go think about what they're saying for just a little bit. Who dat? Absolutely. The only thing worse than AU losing is listening to Danielson and Nestler while we lose. I 100% agree with that, my friend. I saw that on the thing. I was like, oh my gosh. That was the worst thing ever. Although I did compliment Gary Danielson that he had a great analysis of setting the edge, talking about Auburn's defense during that, which they did a good job at in most of the time. That was the only time I really complimented him. Rob says that Texas A&M was hitting on all cylinders. Not necessarily. Did you see them in that whole sequence there when they were at the 4-yard line and ended up back almost at like the 25? They were not hitting at all cylinders. And had they been, this would have been a much worse game to watch. But still, credit goes to them for taking care of business and doing what they need to do. Jacob says, do you think we'll start TJ? I kind of already addressed this. No, if we're not going to be doing this back and forth. And if you are the beat writer that's getting ready to ask that question, because I know one of you is, you know the answer that you're going to get. Coach is just going to say, no, whoever performs best in practice is going to be it. And if TJ outperforms in practice, then he'll be out there. If he's not the best option. You need to be able to recognize that. All right. So what else stuck out to you? I know there's not a lot of good things. Some people are being complimentary of the defense. I think they did all right tonight. They were getting a little bit probably weary from the lack of support from the offense overall. And I kind of feel for them on that, because there was a lot of the bend but don't break mentality here. They would bend but then kind of hunker down as soon as they had to. I mean, really, there's only one touchdown that's really their fault, not counting the Bo fumble. That obviously isn't their fault in any way. But yeah, I think they did okay. I need to go back and look at numbers and things like that. I felt like they probably could have gotten a little bit more pressure on Calzada, but overall, they gave the offense the opportunity to get going, to get rolling, and they never got any support on that. Let's see here. Ooh. Jacob the bomb says, I think Bo's better, but he definitely could have had a better game. I think that's the thing that people miss when someone like myself is defending Bo, is no one's saying that he had a great game today. The guy fumbled twice. Actually, he fumbled technically 3 times. Only lost one of them. If you're going, the first one, thankfully, that one didn't result in anything. That was a great play by the defender. The second one was a trick play where he was not given a great toss, but at the same time, it's kind of the same difference when you talk about a wide receiver. If it hits you in the hands, you got to make the play right. So you can put a little bit of blame on Bo there, but wasn't given the best opportunity for success. The other one, while yes, he drops the ball, doesn't even have it hit. If you go back and watch that play, and I watched it a couple of times because I knew this would be something people would be harping on, guy came flying right through there, not unblocked. No one picked him up. Bo's having to scramble, make a decision on a play that it wasn't prepared for. Guys, I mean, Bo can't do it all. He can't. And things like that are going to happen when you're really panicking and you know you've got no other support. It still is his fault, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that he's the biggest problem. If your solution for Auburn's offense going forward is benching Bo Nix, then you're not paying attention, in my opinion, however humble it may be. Yeah, Rob, that's a great point. The defense was on the field way, way too long. Josh, and I love this, man. You seem like a breath of fresh air tonight amongst a lot of the fans. I think regardless of this scenario, if you had not prepared yourself for this scenario, then you're probably having a hard time with it tonight. I had prepared it for myself, so I don't like it and it sucks, but I'm having a much easier time because thus far, Harsin has done exactly what I thought he would do. Have a couple of big wins, have a couple of disappointing losses, have a couple of expected losses. But we're right on track where I think we need to be. And I would still kind of say probably trending a little bit higher than I expected us to be. One small misstep against Texas A&M in a season where you weren't expected to do anything is not the end of the world. Today, total letdown by the offense. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Defense, while they weren't perfect, they needed some support and they weren't getting that. Why in the world did Calzada want to go head to head with Smoke? I don't know, but I thought that was going to be the turning point in the game. Kudos to Calzada. you got to give the guy some credit because he is I'm not saying he's an outstanding quarterback, but the guy is gritty. He's tough. He's basically broke his foot, his knee, his shoulder in this game, and he gets out there and he just keeps fighting. So my hat's off to Calzada and winning a little bit of respect for him tonight, the way he fought through some very tough circumstances for him. You got to do that. And can't just complain about things going wrong with us. You got to kind of tip your hat to who beat you, especially individuals. And Calzada did what he was supposed to tonight under duress and under, issues. All right, let's take a quick break right here. Everybody take a breather. Keep your comments and questions coming. But we got something very special that I want to make sure that we address tonight because it's something that we've kind of hinted at, something that's been coming. And I'm happy to tell you tonight that a live stream tonight and basically all this month, a lot of our content is going to be sponsored by manscaped.com. So with this holiday season coming up, it's time to give thanks to our friends at Manscaped. And I just want to remind you that they are the global leaders in men's grooming. I've tried some of their products, especially those that you can find on their Performance Package 4.0. And not to mention that includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. I'm going to talk about a few of those in just a second. You can join the 4 million men around the world who trust Manscaped by taking advantage of a 20% off discount plus free shipping with the code E2C Network by going to manscaped.com. So let's be honest, a lot of the companies out there who offer grooming options, they're adequate, right? For most everybody, but very few concentrate on the specifics of a man's grooming needs. And I'm happy to report to you that over the last few weeks that I've been able to try some of Manscaped's products, and they've got my approval, but most importantly, they got the best approval of all, and that is of my wife. And if she's happy, the saying goes, everybody's happy. I do want to talk just for a second about some of the things that you can try out if you take advantage of our code. I talked about the Lawnmower 4.0. It is a body trimmer, and if you're a man, one of the things is we got lots of hair, maybe not sometimes on the head, but we got everywhere across our bodies. This is one of the best groomers that I have ever been able to find. Not only is it sleek, easy to handle, and it's the battery power lasts a long time. It's got a cool, I'm going to try to turn it on here for you. It's got a cool LED light that is very powerful, helps you figure out where you actually need to trim, and has a lot of technology to keep you from nicking yourself and be able just to have a safe trim no matter where you're taking care of your grooming that men have to do. Also, a couple things here. Travel bag. This honestly was, and there's a lot of great things they do. This has been the thing that I have always wanted to have as a perfect bag for traveling, for toiletries and stuff like that. It's convenient. It is not too flashy, and it's just the right size. So honestly, Manscaped, this is probably the thing that I've just been talking about the most just to people on the street. And the other thing that I want to talk to you guys about is their body wash 2-in-1 along with their shampoo. The good thing for those two products for me has been the fact that they're not over the top, smell good items. They, you get a lot of times these things that just are too much. For me, they are the perfect amount of the aroma that's in there, and my wife approves of it too, as I said. So that is the biggest thing. Is she's happy, everybody's happy. So we'll talk more in detail about some of these products later on in the month, but I want to remind you again, if you want to get that 20% off plus free shipping with the code E2C Network at manscaped.com, that's 20% off plus free shipping with the code E2C Network at manscaped.com. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. So we want to thank them for sponsoring, providing this content, this go around here. And I hope that everybody will go check all that out here. So let's get back to the regularly scheduled program here and talk about more of your reactions from the Auburn versus Texas A&M game. Let's see here. Kobe was disappointing, Dusty says. Yeah, he definitely was. I would say personally that Kobe has been a hero a lot of the games this year. Unfortunately, not everybody can have a great game every single game, and this is definitely one of those times where he really didn't match that. Rob says drop passes were in the double digits, so you need to look no further than that to know that this is going to be an off night, not just for the offense, but for Bo as well. Think about the confidence that is lacking if you can't get a pass defense, you can't get a rush, a offensive line doing a good job for passing or rushing, and your wide receivers are dropping balls. How does that make you feel in your success level that you're going to have? Probably not good whatsoever. They attacked the right side of the defensive line with the run game with success. Yeah, you got to give credit to Texas A&M for the level of, just talent that they have, whether it's Anaya Smith, whether it is Calzada, Weidemeyer, whether it is, I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, A-Chain. They are loaded with talent. They just don't use it the best sometimes. But they definitely found some areas where they could attack Auburn, offensive and defensive, and exploited those, not to perfection, but just enough tonight. And had we done a little bit better job of attacking them in some certain areas, or just taking care of business, we're probably talking about a much different reaction to this game. I thought Texas A&M did a good job of disguising the run game. Probably so. I hadn't gone back and looked at everything yet. The Hogs beat Mississippi State. Well, that just sucks. It's cap off a great night here for the Auburn Tigers. We really needed Mississippi State to come in with that win, so maybe we could bounce back against them at home and have that reflect really good on us going forward. But what they say, beggars can't be choosers. WT Gardner says, I'm totally disappointed with this game, but I'm heartened in that Harsin that's a alliteration if I've ever seen one, is doing with the team. Did not expect much from this season, so I am not devastated by this game. And you shouldn't be, right? I understand the disappointment. I understand the frustration. I understand the need to kind of find a reason why. But the reason that a lot of people go to, bench Bo, is not the right answer. Unfortunately, the only answer this season is to continue to try to work through the issues that we have. We've rotated players in at wide receiver, and the issues are still there. You just got to continue to work at it, trying to get better, and put the best people out there to give you the best opportunity to play. Same thing with the offensive lineman. We know we have, and it's time to rebuild at that area. The good thing is that we're hopefully going to get a fresh start at offensive line after this year. And I am thankful and glad of the offensive linemen that we have had here. I'm always happy when someone joins the family and stays with the family. But you can't, deny there has not been a sustained success level from that position for quite some time. So this group, while it may have some great, options, some great athletes, they're just not working that well consistently together. Let's see here. Who dat says props and spot. Thank you so much. Got to keep the lights on. Absolutely, you do. So please do go support them if you want to help support us. I still feel like we will give Bama a dogfight this year. We definitely will. The question is for how long. Anytime they come to Jordan-Hare, usually it's the case where we give them a pretty dang good fight. You got Auburn by 10 against Bama. That might be a bit of a step out, my friends. Let's see. Props for... Oh, okay. I'm trying to catch up on all the comments here. Harsin has done the best he can with a bad situation. I don't disagree with that statement. In terms of Harsin doing the best that he can, yes, I think so. I don't necessarily... The reason it was a bad situation is because we forced a transition in a year it didn't need to happen. That's a long discussion point that we don't need to get in tonight, but it just is what it is. And it's not a great situation, and I think you've seen the results of that, and you've seen I'm trying to think. I'm struggling for words tonight. The results of that. Through some of the games. But I think you can't take away that Harsin has done the best he can to maintain the program being relevant and being, competitive. Outside of Texas A&M and Georgia, They have been competitive in every single game here. Um, if you think of this as Bo's sophomore year, I guess you could make that point with the whole COVID-19 thing. He's not going to be a Cam Newton, but if he sticks around, our offensive linemen improve, he could be very good. The problem with that is that you got to remember is that most of these guys are seniors and upperclassmen that may be moving on to something else. So you're going to be restarting, and that's going to take some time to get right itself. There are other reasons that I don't think Bo comes back after this year, just in my opinion. I hope he does, but I don't think he will. One of the reasons being the way we treat him as fans, as you're seeing today. But there are other reasons as well. I hope so, and I hope that they can get it figured out. But I just think it's probably best for Bo and not necessarily best for Auburn, but for him to kind of take his bow out after this year. But I hope I'm wrong. We got a Georgia. A Texas A&M fan here. I will say Auburn is still a good team, and I will become the biggest Auburn fan in 3 weeks. I wish you the best of luck and hope y'all win the rest of your games. Thank you. I appreciate that, JK. It's always nice to see very reasonable and kind fans. Hope you guys are excited about your win today, and you have a very talented team. I still do think that if the game's flipped and we're in Jordan-Hare Stadium, this goes a different way. I think you're better right now, but not too much better. So we'll see what happens at the, for the rest of the season. And we will do our best to put you into the championship game, if you catch my drift. If anybody's got a good shot, it definitely is Auburn. For me, Dusty says it's not a loss. I expected 8-4. It's just how bad and dysfunctional we looked on offense today. And look, when we talk about trying to find the figure all this out and find the good in all this, we're not negating how bad things are in this particular game. But if you got to take a step back for a second, like I had a flip out moment in the living room. You can ask my wife where I lost it on the offensive line. I literally just lost it because I'm so tired. I was so tired of seeing the inconsistency and the issues that trickled down because of that. But at the same time, I can't negate some of the strides that they've taken the rest of the year, right? Their pass protection outside of this game and a couple of handfuls in other situations in other games has improved. Their run blocking has not at all, but their pass blocking has. So you got to, if you're going to have criticism, you also got to take a step back and realize that it's not as bad as it seems at the time. Rob asking is what's the name of the 5-star coming in the next spring? None that I'm aware of. You've got TJ Finley, Demetrius Davis, and Holden Grenier, if I'm saying that correctly, coming in. So that is your future as of this moment. Dusty says, I was at the game. Johnny Manziel destroyed us. Aggie fans were very classy, and I enjoyed them. Here's the thing that I'll say about Aggie fans. It's almost like, and I remember this from the 2018 game. Yes, because this is the odd years, so the even years are always at Auburn. I remember from that game that it just, when Texas A&M fans, they were almost like still shocked that they were in the SEC and wanted to be on their best behavior. So it's always been interesting to me to watch how they, are just different from the SEC fans you typically run into. And that's not always the case, but y'all, they do seem, and I say y'all for any of those that y'all listen, Texas A&M fans, that y'all seem to be very kind and competitive, which you should be, but also very reasonable for the most part. And I think that comes from accepting that they're pretty weird. And I was on a Texas A&M fans podcast at the preseason, and my first thing I always remind is like, good, y'all are just weird with your little chants and your little hand signals and yell leaders and things like that. I think that comes from understanding they're really unique and they're just happy to be here. And they came into a conference and actually are relevant. So there's something to be said for that. Dusty says, remind everybody that QB is Holden Grenier is not 5 stars. But remember, I know you're not saying this, Dusty. Stars do not matter. Period. Matters how many stars you have after you leave. No, Rob, you don't have to joke about this because I want to see this too. Hey, says Mrs. Kyle. Her name is Jessica, by the way. Can you please put Kyle's flip out moment on TikTok? Let me just say that is probably not a moment that is worthy of being. It needs to be aired. I have my flip out moments in the game, but once they're over, I put them to bed and move on. Just kind of leave it at that point. I have no problems with expressing my frustrations, but you kind of have to put them in perspective, put them in, context, and then rationalize them from there. But I will tell you, I jumped up a few times, said a few things at the TV. It's probably good I didn't have something in my hand. Not that I would have thrown it, but I probably would have just flung it, just being upset. Josh says that Kyle Field is no joke. I have heard that Kyle Field is an awesome experience. I almost got to go about 3 years, 2 or 4 years ago. Just the trip didn't work out. And I'm thankful I wasn't at that game, even though it was a win, because it was like scorching hot and the only seats were like directly into the sun. And I've been to that Texas heat before during that time frame, and it is not fun. But hopefully one day, this would have been a perfect day to be at Texas A&M, despite the way the game resulted out. 67, I think the high was. Great football weather there in Texas, so would have loved to have been there. Rob says we all have our flip out moments. I think that's obvious. Some of us flip out on Twitter because that's the easiest thing to do. Others flip out in public sometimes. You should come sit with me in the stands in Jordan-Hare sometimes. I really have to remind myself, Kyle, you're not in your house. You have to realize people can see what you're doing at times. It's not wise for you to say some of the things and make some of the gestures that you're doing and all that time. Anyway, all right. So let's get some more comments, questions in about the game. Is there any player of the game out there for you? I will give you a reminder that we will be back on Monday to break down the game in terms of grading the units. It's not going to be fun. Save your grades until then, about 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll break down the game further based off stats, and then having some time to sit on all this, talk about how we would grade everybody out. Also, we will talk about on Wednesday a preview for Mississippi State, which will be interesting. A noon kickoff game. Not going to be fun, but I will be on campus. But we'll talk more about that later on down the road. Again, kind of going back through some of the things we talk about and reminding you, I agree that the defense probably did all they could in this game and finally just didn't get enough support, and that bend don't break mentality kind of finally broke. Offense, there's really not much to be excited about out of about 2 drives where we drove down the field and really couldn't come away with much, if anything at all. But that's a great thing. This is what I needed. Jamari gets basically comment of the show because Jamari has pointed out that we can all be happy with that Roger McCreary is the player again. He is a shutdown corner. It is a lonely, lonely, lonely place on McCreary Island. And why people keep throwing over there, I don't know. You will not find success. Literally, Roger McCreary stands over there by himself half the time and just hears because it's, very rare that someone wants to throw over there. I will counter Jamari's point with another one. I thought Jalen Simpson today had a very decent game as well, had some pretty good coverage moments. I feel a lot better the more I watch Simpson about our future post Roger McCreary. Not saying he's at Roger's level or will get there, but I think the future is bright with Jalen Simpson out there. Tennyson had a few head-scratching moments, but he also had a few good moments as well. So I think there's some things to take away from there that are very encouraging too. We all have our flip outs. Every drop pass at this point spikes my blood pressure into Mars. Well, you can spike your blood pressure, but do you flip out like I do? I don't know that there's anything more frustrating for me than seeing half a second go by and then someone busting through the line after Bo. That's when I lost it. It was 2 plays in a row. It happened. And it like I blew up the one time and then it happened 2 plays in a row. I think it was there in the very beginning of the fourth quarter. It was right before the fumble or right after the fumble and just lost it over here. It was absolutely awful. Clint, what's going on, my man? Clint of the Auburn Uniform Database, popping in here with the upside down smiley face. Yeah, I think that's how we're feeling tonight. Not a lot of good things to walk away with and take away. But we all agree that Roger McCreary is awesome. Jalen Simpson, I think we can all agree is a good shining light there. The linebackers, for the most part, I think did an okay job. I didn't like how when they got into the second level, the running backs for Texas A&M, they had a lot of room to work with. I think that has a lot of, things to point out for them there. That'll probably factor into my grading, but they still had an upstanding good job. I wish we had gotten more pressure and hit Calzada a few more times, especially after we had injured his shoulder. Hit him a few more times, and he's probably much different after this. Rob thinks we should have gone with the white face mask. We'll never know, right? I think everybody does lose it when we drop one at this point, because we all know where the deficiencies are. We all know where the problems are. And it's just frustrating when it continues to happen and it doesn't seem, especially after you've seen some encouraging signs, right? I think if Auburn had been, losing games and the wide receivers had continuously been the biggest issue in the past couple of games, then you're kind of like hopefully at this point you realize, well, it's just not going to get better. But when you see encouraging signs, and then you have kind of a step back, I get the frustration. I really do. Navy face mask was the right choice. Keep the white and orange special. No need to wear them in consecutive weeks. And this is why I love Clint, because Clint loves changes and I hate them, but he's reasonable about them. I'm fine with uniform changes. I'm fine with doing some things that are a little bit unique. I just don't want I don't want us to become Oregon, if that makes sense. I think we're all so tired about talking about this game. They want to know, Clint, which uniform will be on for the Iron Bowl. Clint's not a prognosticator. He hates giving predictions, if you haven't learned that. But he'll probably say something classic. I think probably what he's most excited about for is those rugby jerseys that the cheerleaders wear, because that tells you right there that it's the Iron Bowl. David, we're just having a little fun at this point. I don't think the mask matters either. We're just kind of trying to put a smile on her face after a very frustrating performance, only walking away with 3 points. And that's going to be the big thing there. Clint says prediction, Navy mask. You think that the mask matters, then you need some help. We clearly don't think that it matters. What it does matter for is just building up some extra hype and excitement and things like that, but that's about it. So kind of going back to what we were talking about, defense, so decent showing. Some probably the best moments are from there. Shanker, I think, showed up today, made some really good catches, and then Luke Deal had a really great catch and a pass from Bo there as well. The issues is not between Bo and the tight ends. The issues are between Bo and the wide receivers. There were moments where, again, I think the gut reaction is to say, well, Bo overthrew that, but he didn't. Bo, well, the deep ball he did overthrow. But like on those curl routes, there's, miscommunication, how far they're supposed to run, when they're supposed to cut in, how they're supposed to cut in. That was really where it happens. We might as well laugh. Laugh to keep from crying at this point. Rob says prediction, orange face mask of the Iron Bowl, special day. If it was an extra special day, like an extra special Iron Bowl, maybe. This one's not going to be like extra special that I'm aware of. Clint would be the one to know about those type of things, so I will leave that to him. Anyway, all right, get your last minute comments, questions, derogatory rebuttal in if you'd like to, please. Right now, post it in the comment section. A couple reminders. Make sure you check out the description for ways that you can help support our content. One of those is by supporting our sponsor. We've already talked about them, manscaped.com. And you can take advantage of the link E2C as the promo code to get 20% off and free shipping. And I know, look, a lot of you are kind of cracking jokes about that and stuff like that. There are really good products there outside of the ones that you're even thinking of. So please go check it out. See if it's worth your while to check out that and see if there's any products there that would of interest to you. And using that code, because they're really good. I've been very pleased with what I've used so far. Also, there's other ways that you can help support, like the Booster Club, becoming a channel member, or just hitting that like button. We appreciate that too as well. Last couple comments and questions. Rob says, orange pants too? Please no. Please, Clint, if you have any control over that, please don't do that. Jamari says, all in all, I'm excited for Auburn's future, especially once Harsin gets the type of personnel he wants. Absolutely. I love Jamari. I think it was Jamari, and who else was it that I was saying earlier? I love their perspective. Josh, maybe. I mean, lots of people have had great perspectives about this game. But this year, I think what this will finally help set in for the Auburn collective is that this is a year where you didn't need to anticipate a championship year. And look, here's the crazy thing. Weird things have happened before. If Chris Davis can go 109 yards to win a game, Auburn can go undefeated the rest of the season. Texas A&M could lose another one. Alabama could somehow lose another one as well. And if they went out, they go to the championship game. I'm not saying that's going to happen. You shouldn't prepare it for. But even if that doesn't happen, your season's not over. You should be excited for the way that Harsin has maintained competitiveness in the games that you're supposed to and has kept us moving forward and has worked through some issues already. That's what I'm encouraged with. And Casey is... Oh, Casey. I love your optimism, but it's just not gonna. I wouldn't bank on that. Happening. Alabama's tied with LSU at the moment, so you never know. Absolutely. Look, Alabama's going to win this game tonight. You just need to go ahead and say that. And if I'm wrong, you guys can clip this clip right here and show it to me on social media and say you were wrong, and I will be happy for it. But you know, crazier things have happened. Just don't plan on it happening. Just enjoy this for what it is. Auburn can now play the official spoiler for a lot of people, namely Alabama, and can have probably, if they win out, a very good bowl game, because Auburn has won a lot of respect this season from a lot of different teams, a lot of different prognosticators, and I think you should be very encouraged by that. Casey, yeah, no playoffs anymore. If that wasn't already an outside reality for you, it needs to be now. It is very unlikely that even if Auburn wins out, they go to the playoffs. It can be done, though. I'm just hoping that Cincinnati will get some respect and be put in there, because I'm feel for them at this point. Gator Bowl, please. Clint is being selfish because he lives close to Jacksonville. Won't tell you exactly where he lives, but he just wants that for the proximity. Just know that I'm coming to stay with you, Clint, if that happens. It's possible for us to get a New Year's Day bowl, but a few of them outside of New Year's are probably more likely. Got to look at like the list and lineup and see where everything's fallen into place. Red, where AU is looking at another running back. Could that mean Tank is moving on? Potentially. But if you look at the running back field right now, you've got Tank, you've got Sean Shivers, who's definitely done after this year. He's a senior. Jarquez is a freshman. Tank next year is eligible to go to the NFL. So that means that you may just see a guy being brought into redshirt, learn under them, be ready for when he does leave. Because even after this year, I think he still leaves after that third year. Josh is a great point here as well. If you didn't see the lineup on the TV, was it 4, maybe 5 teams were, as of tonight, were ranked in the SEC West. College football runs through the SEC, and namely the SEC West. My floor is comfy and my neighbors are noisy. Let's see. Where is David's at? No, we don't know where Tank's going. That we don't. That's just a rumor he was asking about. Nobody panic. Everybody panic. I think so. Let me point to something here. Does everyone remember how everybody was saying this big rumor about players were getting suspended for potentially taking this substance and then got tested and all this kind of thing? Did that ever amount to anything? But we were all sure. Don't jump on the rumors. Usually if there's a rumor where there's smoke, there's fire. The question is to what degree. It could be a little bitty ember. Could be a roaring inferno. Rumors really don't amount to exactly what you thought it was going to be, though. So don't panic. Tank is not necessarily going anywhere. If we're taking another running back, it means we have the room and it means we have the anticipation that there will be a need at some point, not necessarily right away. Dusty, I just want to beat Mississippi State, maybe score some touchdowns. That would be nice in 6 quarters, right? Bowl game a ways down the road. I agree. You know, I like to entertain it a little bit, but it's really still lots of football left to be played to determine all of that. I am focused on making sure that that pirate of Mike Leach doesn't come in and get a win here because he has been crafty and has been able to shock some people this year. I'm focused on taking care of business at South Carolina, and I'm focused on what's going to be probably a very fun Iron Bowl with Alabama coming to town. It's going to be awesome. Just see here. Steven, you may have missed this earlier. We addressed this. Why not pull Bo? It's not his fault, but try something else if it's not working. The only thing that I can give you is that it didn't get as bad as Georgia State. Bo was bad from the very beginning at Georgia State. Bo was not bad tonight until the problems started surmounting on top of him because he was getting no support. That's very two different stories. So whereas it makes sense, you would make that change in the Georgia State game. Here, it doesn't make sense. We won't go too far into that, but you probably missed that discussion a little bit earlier. Rob's got a great point for those of you asking about that. Why we take at least 2 running backs every year. It's a stable. Got to have them keep coming in here. And for those of you that forgotten, we have Jamari Alston committed. And I think Tank, you know, it's not necessarily because he's not happy here, not because he couldn't have success here. It's the longevity of a running back in football these days, and you have to take advantage of it when he can. Rob's already wanting him to go to his Raiders. All right, I think we're going to close it out here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for checking out all of those links in the description, checking out our sponsor for this live stream. Really appreciate it. I cannot recommend some of the things that I mentioned on the show. I showed you guys. Go back and check that out if you haven't. And please do support them if you can. And we appreciate them supporting this live stream. We'll catch up with you guys very soon. Be here with us again on Monday night. Austin probably will be back. We'll break it down. We'll grade everything. And we'll put this ugly, ugly Auburn, Texas A&M finally to bed on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, I'll talk to you very soon.